Wow. 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 Did last night happen? Did last night actually happen? Did that really happen? Wow. Okay. We've got to discuss this. And we're going to be discussing this LSU Florida State crazy game all day. We'll be discussing it in videos such as this. We'll be discussing it in live streams such as the one you saw with us, AD, Adrian, and Nurse Court, people like that. Maybe even those two might return. We're going to be doing a lot of different things. And some interesting articles about this, some deep dives, because there is a lot to dissect here. But really, we're going to start from the get-go, just summarize this game. Absolute shocking scenes in the Superdome. And I know LSU lost the game. Okay. We all know how heartbreaking of a loss that was, because for all of the mistakes, for all of the absolute ineptitude over 3.5 quarters from this offense, once Jaden Daniels was able to start hitting his receivers, and he missed a ton of routes, we'll get into that, but once he started hitting LSU's receivers and we started using the up-tempo offense, and we started actually giving the ball to Noah Cain, interestingly enough. He didn't even have a damn carry until that touchdown scoring drive. I believe he has like 24 yards, something like that on that drive. The running game was just completely anonymous outside of that drive. And you saw a team that wasn't ready to play, wasn't ready to beat Florida State. You saw a staff that wasn't ready to make the right adjustments. As Brian Kelly admitted in his post-game press conference, that the reason the game came down to 2 blocked kicks and a 1-point difference from LSU winning that game and losing that game was all because of an alignment issue that they corrected. They said they told them, the players, about it. They thought they communicated that issue, and it didn't get fixed. And he said, "That's on me. I'm the head coach. I take responsibility." It was a shocking game. 24-23 LSU lose. It all came down to an extra point that seemed like a formality. LSU had just clawed their way back into a game down 14 in the most inexplicably awesome way. And I have to toot my own horn. I said Jaden Daniels has led comebacks before, and there's so many LSU fans just immediately shit on me, and I'm like, hey, he's done this before in his Arizona State career. And what does he do? What does Jaden Daniels do? For all of the criticism of how one-dimensional LSU were, because of how he bailed on so many plays, missed so many routes in order to gain first downs or some type of yardage or escape sacks with his feet. Escape hits, really. He could just stand in there and throw the ball. But instead he gets a chunk of those yards with his feet. It really disrupted our entire offensive play, especially in the passing game. But the fact that Jaden Daniels was able to dig deep right when it just seemed like LSU could not get any luck with the muff punts and by Malik Neighbors, where LSU's backs were completely against the wall, and this defense makes something happen. Mekhi Wingo recovers the fumble on the goal line when Florida State are about to go in and kill us off. And they give LSU a fighting chance. Mekhi Wingo makes the play. Because I think Ward straight up just fumbled that football. Yeah, there was no strip on the play. He just straight up fumbled the ball. But you couldn't have a more likely touchdown scenario, and yet Mekhi Wingo strips the ball, gives Jaden Daniels a 99 yards, and I believe just over a minute. And somehow, once LSU start throwing the football, we should have been running that offense all game long, hitting Malik Neighbors on back-to-back plays. Right after his muff punt, we say, hey, we believe in you. Hit Malik. Malik makes big plays, gets first downs. Dre Jenkins for a few big clutch grabs, and we'll come on to him just a bit more later. And then, just executing down the field. Jaden Daniels making some big plays with his feet, escaping sacks. There's times he's missing wide open receivers for chunks of yards, but at the same time, drives LSU down the field. He hits Mason Taylor on this play. And Mason Taylor, I'm telling you, man, literally just diving for that out of bounds. Such a smart football play to preserve some time for LSU. He could have tried to play hero and barreled through, and maybe he would have gotten the touchdown. Maybe he doesn't. But he knows one thing for sure, the situation, he knows the time, and he jumps out of bounds. First thing he does is look up at the clock. Did I make it? And it says 1 second. He had to be like, whew, and luckily, everyone saw his knee was down. They gave us 2 seconds. Regardless, LSU has an opportunity for one last play. And somehow, after Jordan Travis was destroying us all game long, and we lose two of our best defensive linemen, Mason Smith to a freak injury, Ali Gay to just a ridiculous targeting that I got to call him out on. And, somehow, some way, Jaden Daniels leads us down the field in a crazy fashion with help from his receivers. Malik Neighbors making plays right after the muff punt. And then Dre Jenkins comes up huge, big time huge. You had Kayshon Boutte catching a 4th down, catching another awesome 3rd down play. Dre Jenkins, 2 touchdowns, getting us back in the game. The leading receiver on the day. But I got to say, he only had 46 yards. A couple guys had 40 yards, and Kayshon Boutte, 2 catches. Now that's something I'll start with. Kayshon. People want to rip on Jaden Daniels this morning. I get that. Monday morning quarterbacking is, that's the term for a reason. But I have to defend Jaden Daniels on these 2 plays. First drive of the game. Maybe Jaden Daniels' first pass of the game. I'm not sure. But I know it's the first target Boutte's way for definite sure. In the red zone, very quickly because of a few rushes from Jaden Daniels. JD goes back, throws an absolute perfect pass. Maybe not perfect, sorry, but an accurate pass that Kayshon Boutte gets right in his hands. It's good enough for a touchdown. The pass does allow the defensive back to get it back into the play just enough to dislodge the football out of Kayshon's grasp. Now, Jaden Daniels put that right into Kayshon Boutte's hands. Number 7. I am Kayshon's biggest fan. You gotta have that. But at the same time, that's a play that can happen to any receiver. Randy Moss, Megatron. But as a number 7, you got to pride yourself on beating those defensive backs in those plays. They're not going to dislodge that ball. But maybe the pass should have been more accurate. Point is, it was in his hand, in the end zone. Another play which really, I think, really disturbed a lot of LSU fans, as you've seen on social media. Just outrageous, which I will not condone. Jaden Daniels throws an absolute dart right at Booty. Booty makes a nice move, doesn't think the ball's coming his way after being frustrated on the play before. And the ball, literally, while he's looking the other way, hits him in the hand and bounces away. It was one of the weirdest plays I've ever seen. And there can be excuses. I understand the play. You're number 7. You're supposed to be the Blitnikoff guy. Okay? You're my guy. You got to make that play. I expect more from Kayshawn. As much as I have absolutely sung his praises, I got to call. Like I say, he's got to have his head in the game there and make that catch. That's 2 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels could have thrown for LSU early. LSU's up, could have been up something about like 14, possibly 17-0 early. Okay, it was a very, very bizarre game with a lot of interesting missed opportunities and situations that befuddled the mind. The Mason Smith injury, celebrating, jumping around, just like any player does on any play, and somehow tears his ACL, it looks. I shouldn't say that, but it looks like it's a serious knee injury. And you just like, what a nightmare. The luck was, there's no luck for LSU at all in that first half. That first half was the complete opposite of what I had anticipated. I had anticipated an LSU barnstorming rush out the gates. We did not see that. We did not see that at all. And, it was very flat. LSU completely abandoned the running game, passing ad nauseum, but instead of getting in a rhythm with the receivers, it was just Jaden Daniels running the football. It did not lend itself. I mean, it was straight up ugly at times. And Jaden Daniels made some great plays with the bad snaps, just the 2 bad snaps from Garrett Dellinger. But it was a very, very crazy, crazy game. Florida State came to play. They came to play. Their receiving core went at DBU. They attacked us, pulling off one-handed catches in the end zone. I mean, they're lucky to get out of the Superdome with a win. But at the same time, I mean, you got to feel they did enough in the trenches to win this game. That offensive line played better than I thought they would against our D-line, but the Mason Smith injury really, and the Ollie Gay targeting really greatly plays into that. At the same time, they played a lot better than I thought they would, and they answered a lot of questions. But when it comes to Florida State's D-line really roughing up LSU's offensive line, I mean, Cam Wire was blown off the line multiple times at right tackle, I gotta say. It's the first game. I get it. LSU've gotta iron out these mistakes. They've got to figure it out. But, in the fallout, there has been some awful things posted online and said to players' families, said to players themselves. That just has to stop. LSU fans, you're you're absolutely better than this. And this is just a small fringe segment who are just absolute idiots. Most people, including, a non-LSU fan, but one of the biggest sports icons in the world, LeBron James, posted a tweet coming to Malik Neighbors' support. Well, no one feels worse about what happened last night than Malik Neighbors. I can promise you that. No one feels worse. So to dump on this kid, come at his mom, come at his family, threaten them, say you're coming for his scholarship, something about NIL money. Shut up. Shut your mouth. You would never have the gall to say that to Malik's face, would you? Because I can assure you what would happen. Malik is going to be just fine. As for some of these buffoons coming after him, I'm not so sure how you'll be, and maybe some of you should be committed. I went to bed, there was some snafu with the postgame. Could not get in to do the postgame. There was some problem with the codes. I don't know what was going on. It felt really bizarre, but hopefully we'll iron that out for next week. But we're going to pour you a ton of content here because we should have done a postgame. We were set up to do a postgame. I don't know why it didn't happen. Kind of pissed off about that, but did I want to do a postgame actually now that when I wake up and see all of these posts, all of the stuff the fans may have been capable of saying in the comment section on those live streams, that's something that would have been tough. I will say this, I will have criticism for what I saw from the coaching staff. I love to see the response from the coaching staff. I love to see the response from the players to get back in the game, the fight. But the body language for the first 3.5 to 4 quarters, if not entire game, from our coaching staff, straight up to the head coach, Brian Kelly, who I really think is going to be a success at LSU. I did not like that body language, though. There was a lack of energy. It was defeatist. It looked like we were watching the end of Apocalypse Now for the first time. Just dazed and confused when they did the trick play, the double reverse touchdown bomb, which, hey, Mekhi Garner got burnt on that play, but he responded, didn't allow another catch in the game. He was one of the more better performing DBs, even though he got burnt. Denied a touchdown. Jay Ward was huge. But, the defense stepped up in some big moments to get the offense that were just playing like crap the ball back. Offense finally picked it up. Offensive line were not getting beaten as much, but at the same time, Jaden Daniels having to run for his life. But what I saw from the coaching staff at times really got to me. That this is a staff that I've seen their energy. I know their energy. We got to have their energy on the sidelines for 4 quarters. Maybe the cameras just didn't do a good job of showing it. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. But I want to see more energy from these guys. We got to see energy from our leaders, and it was a bad night. I think it was really shocking for everyone there, but I really wanted to see someone kind of grab the moment by the scruff of the neck and say, I'm gonna show us the way here. And I gotta say, if you're gonna look at one player who actually really said, hey, I'm gonna grab the moment by the scruff of the neck here on defense, I would say Mekhi Wingo made the play of his life. I mean, a play he'll never forget. I mean, he's going to be having a career full of big plays, okay? But that was a play that could have absolutely... I mean, it's sad that the game ends the way it did because that moment was forgotten, it seemed. That moment became slightly lost. But it is not lost on me what a play that was. That fumble recovery on the goal line when they're about to finish LSU off. Unbelievable. And then, you got B.J. Ojulari making some big plays on the defensive line as well. B.J. Ojulari was playing like a number 18. He was absolutely everywhere. Jay Ward made some big plays, denied a touchdown with some big plays, a big pass breakup in the end zone. Mekhi Garner responded after that, after he got beat. They were taking some big shots on Jarek Bernard-Converse. He allowed one catch, but there was a few big shots that he denied with some great coverage. But LSU still were getting torched on third down repeatedly in the passing game. 11 of 17, I think it was, on third down from Florida State. Just, good God, Jordan Travis proved me wrong. He can more than throw the football. And, I was worried about that. I said, if they can actually hit us in the passing game, they can really hurt us. And if they can really, if DBU doesn't show up as much as I think they could, if they're going to be more unfamiliar with each other, if there's going to be some miscommunications with coverage, if there's going to be some guys just straight up getting beat out there. And Jordan Travis proved he can really throw the football. He defied a lot of people, including me, who didn't believe in that. Took care of the ball as well, although Mekhi Garner easily could have had an interception there in the end zone. LSU did not create any turnovers that I know. Yeah, none that can come to my mind except for the Mekhi Wingo fumble recovery. Outside of the Mekhi Wingo fumble recovery, no interceptions from Jordan Travis, nothing. Really surprising there. I expected at least one interception from our defensive backfield, but Florida State, they didn't rush the ball as well as they would have liked on us, and we, I think, just allowed 4 yards per carry, something like that, and like a 130, 140 for the game, which is about 50 more yards than I was expecting LSU to give up. But losing Mason Smith, Ollie Gay, the situation we were in, the defense had their backs against the wall and played well, I would say, all in all. Maybe not well, but there was some signs of life that it was like, okay, those type of stops are something that helps a defense down the line, helps the defense get it together down the line. I think they'll be fine. The offense is what I'm worried about. But there's still, Jaden Daniels went out there and said, I am turning this game around. And you know what? He did. He gave LSU a chance to come back in this game, force overtime, and win this thing. There's one moment where he's even having to have his arm around Kayshon Boutte to get him back into the game, get his head back in the game. Like, hey man, I'm coming to you. I need you. Let's get this shit going. Let's go. And I want to see more from this team. I know what these players are capable of. And, Jack Besh only getting 1 target on the day, 1 catch, 1 for 5 yards. Maybe they're just, working him slowly back in the lineup, but I saw him out there a bunch. And I saw him open plenty, just not getting the ball. I saw Kayshon open a bunch. Jane Daniels would tuck it. And yeah, he kept us in the game. But the reason we were even in that situation was because we did not get our receivers the football. I mean, Kyron Lacey comes in for a few plays and is dynamic, and then we don't see him again. LSU need to get smarter about their rotation. It was a wild game. A blocked extra point after the Jeray Jenkins catch with 1 second left after Mason Taylor dives out of bounds. They review it for what seemed like 10, 15 minutes, 2 timeouts consecutively by Florida State. Madness. And yet, LSU really could have won this game. For all of the mayhem, all of the insanity, all of the special teams snafus, the shanked punts, the 14-point deficit, getting our asses handed to us on the offensive line. LSU could have still won this game. There's going to be a lot of talk about we got to switch quarterback, we got to do this, we got to do that. I think LSU are going to be looking really hard at every position here. And I think you're going to see some movement at offensive line. I think you're going to see some movement in the defensive backfield in the secondary. I think, Mike Jones Jr. made some sick plays. This play where I don't think he was credited for a sack, but he should have been. He misses the sack, goes in, gets a pressure, wraps the quarterback up, goes to the ground, and then gets up, tracks down Travis, and gets him just as Ojulari smashes him too, right at the line of scrimmage. That should have been a half sack for both those guys, but what an unbelievable play by Mike Jones Jr. Crazy play. At the same time, there was some times where Greg Penn, Mike Jones Jr. were susceptible in the passing game. Florida State were able to get those matchups, and Jordan Travis took advantage. It was something. It was the scenario I said, if LSU are going to lose this game, if LSU are really going to lose another opener, this is what will happen. LSU will be one-dimensional on offense, and then get beat up on the offensive line. Special teams will be making some really bad errors. And then Florida State will not only be able to run the ball enough, but then Jordan Travis will be killing us with passing on early downs, on third downs. I really predicted that Florida State was going to pass on us early and often, and they did. And it was successful. They tested those defensive backs, and they won the battle. They won the war in the game, and LSU's defensive backs will be better for this game. LSU's defense will be better for this game. LSU's team will be better for this game. But with the fan base coming down and freaking out, being so soft, get it together. Don't be so soft. Have your players' backs here. They fought. They got us back to 20. It should have been 24-24 going to overtime, and we should have won this game. We would have won this game had it gone to overtime. Florida State would have been so dejected by what they'd given up. And so to come down on all these players like I've seen, and I'm getting texts about this player's defecting, he's revolting, he's posting this, and then I actually go and see what the players, and they're not even doing anything like that. These players are being called out by people all over the place and getting hate mail and all this stuff. Back off. Leave these kids alone. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You're adults. It's embarrassing. As an LSU, as a human being. And you know what? There's a lot of kids right now. Shelton Sampson's looking at this and saying, well, I just returned a punt the other night for 98 yards for a touchdown. What if I'm returning punts for LSU like Malik Neighbors is, and I muff a punt in a big game? And this what will this fan base say? Will they say the things that they've said about Malik to Malik and his mom? Will that happen to me? There's recruits asking themselves that tonight after watching that game. There's recruits, though, that I've seen posting absolute diehard support for being a Tiger. And I love it. I love to see it. This 2023 class is special. This 2024 class is special. But, we got to get the house in order. There's some things LSU's got to fix. But we knew that coming into this season. We knew it would be a rough, tough season, and we knew there'd be some losses. It was just where were they going to come? Everyone had their predictions. Everyone had their picks. But it was all uncertain, and we all knew this coming into this. With this type of a roster. Built up of veterans and returning guys we knew, and a lot of transfers. A lot of high-quality transfers, but you all have to gel as a team to be successful. Our offensive line, we're playing guys all over the place in random positions. I knew that's what we would do. Is that going to be successful? Are guys versatile enough to really pull that off in game situations? Is this just a week 1 hiccup? Could LSU still end with 9 wins? I mean, college football is insane. You cannot ever rule anything out. LSU could end the season with 5 wins, and I wouldn't be surprised. LSU could end the season with 9 wins, and I wouldn't be surprised. But the thing that did surprise me was how vitriolic and nasty our fan base was to our players. And that is something that I feel sick about this morning. And I feel sick about the game. This is a moment in the Superdome where LSU really could have started this era off right. And it seemed like everything the wheels fell off at every possible moment. There were still some great signs. Still some great signs out there. Still some very positive things that you can take away from this game. That fight, that mentality to get back. Noah Cain being able to push and bludgeon his way with the offensive line in for that very crucial had-to-have-it touchdown. The defensive backs being able to recover and make some plays after getting beaten on a few big plays by Florida State's offense, and then constant first and third downs conversions through the air. Our linebacker rotation looks strong, but we had so many shots at Jordan Travis to get the guy on the ground. I mean, there's about 12, 13 pressures and quarterback hits that I've just mapped out myself, I swear. Everyone from Ali Gay to West Weeks to Ojulari to Mike Jones Jr., all these players had a clear shot at him. Mekhi Garner on a corner blitz couldn't get the guy to the ground. They have got to figure that out. They've got to get these quarterbacks to the ground when you got the shot at him. I think it was stunning for LSU's defense what happened with the Mason Smith injury. But this is just part 1 of our coverage. We'll be getting into a lot more of this in just one moment. And you'll be seeing my face. LSU, Florida State. What a crazy game. This is part 1 of our post-game fallout coverage. Thank you all for joining us. Everybody, chill out. Leave the players alone.